Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Unique Peace. Today, I am excited to welcome Raven Adams. She is an auric. I love saying that, photographer, so she can read people's energy. And she loves to lead with energy, which is part of what she does. And she takes beautiful pictures that really enhance our ability to see ourselves in a different light. So I would like to introduce and welcome Raven Adams to the show.
Hi, thank you
Good
for
morning.
having me.
Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have you.
I'm excited. I like connecting with like-minded people, and I'm glad we know a few of the same people in our circle.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And through that connection, thank you, Grace. We have Raven on the
Yes, I love her. She's one of my favorite people, so genuine.
Yes. And I love her energy. She's got
Oh, totally. Yeah.
everything upbeat.
Yeah. Oh, she's
Not
always been like that.
Yeah. And it's never a dull moment.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
so. And so meeting you through her
Uh-huh.
is been interesting because when you kind of look on your Instagram and you take these beautiful pictures of people and you do the auric energy pictures as well as you leave cards
Yes.
around to find.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to talk about that in a minute. And
Okay.
Michael says, "Good morning."
Michael. Hi, Michael. I
Welcome.
was hoping he would be on here.
Yes, he's with me every week. As I had introduced, you lead with energy. That's your company, and
Mhm.
you take these beautiful pictures of people and to highlight their aura. So, kind of
Yeah.
walk us through how those two meld together.
So I think intention is really key when it comes to photography and being authentic in your work. I always like to tell people, for me specifically, I don't like to be super structured with my photography. I like to just see where my energy flows, right? So I put an intention out first off that I attract the right clients. That I know that we'll have a good rapport and a good energy when we work together. With a lot of my work that you've seen, a lot of it I do love doing street photography just because I can work, I can explore, right? Instead of being in a studio. And I'm not against studio work at all, but I love being outside, working with light, working with different patterns. Um, and it really is when you're working with energy, it kind of depends on like when you're there. I'll get visions of certain things that clients want before the shoot, but I'm not attached to it. Does that make sense? Because I have
Yes.
found when you're really attached to a specific image, like too attached to it, something ends up happening. I've seen this happen to photographers where they're like, oh, I had this set up and the light broke and it just ruined the whole thing and it ruins their whole entire day. And so it's like you have to be flexible when it comes to photography. And if something goes wrong and it's not necessarily wrong, spirit's just redirecting you, you go down another street, you get another pattern, you change the energy of the client. Maybe the client's having a bad day. You really just have to see where the day takes you. And as we were talking about before we jumped on here, is hi, Regina, is surrender, meaning you can't be too attached. You have to surrender. And I think that's important even with photography. And I don't think enough people talk about that with photography.
No, and I want to welcome Regina as well. She is a beautiful soul, and she is a regular viewer as well. So welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning, Regina. So now, when you take pictures and you do the various light, is there, as you said, you were guided. Is there anything like, do you have a vision or does the client have a vision or you kind of figure it out together? Is it a mix?
Definitely figure it out together. 100%. So before my photo shoots, I'll ask the client specifically what they want. Now, I do a lot of psychic and intuitive work. So obviously, if a client tells me, Raven, I'm doing XYZ for my business, I'll already be getting visions, right? And so sometimes I'll get visions and then I'll be on a specific street and then I'll be like, oh, I see you with XYZ. And I have a lot of my clients, let's say, with even outfits that they do or hair or makeup. I'll give them suggestions, but it's teamwork for sure. We work together.
Michael says, do you get messages for your clients?
Yes, I do. Now, specifically, a lot of people, well, it's funny. A lot of people hire me for photography, but they also know I do intuitive work, and I usually do those two things separate. However, yeah, I've been drawn actually a few times during my during my photo shoots. People are like, "Oh, they'll bring up me placing the angel cards and oracle cards." So after the photo shoot, usually towards the end, it's happened a few times where I give a message, and that just changes their whole entire day, you know, because people want to
Love
walk
that.
away. Yeah, people want to walk away. Now that's really cool because people want to walk away with confidence knowing they're getting new photos for their business, and then they also get a message from their angels and spirit. So yeah, people, it's funny the domino effect with some of my clients that came to me for photography and then end up after speaking with me kind of getting on a spiritual path, or it opens them up a little bit more.
Yep, and I totally understand that with the Reiki side as well. So I love that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And with leaving the cards,
Yeah.
now combination question. What inspired and what has transpired through doing that?
Oh, wow. It's a great question. It, crazy things have happened. So, I, for years, have always been into energy, even when I was a little girl. I was always very fascinated by angels. I could hear them. I think a lot of it at a certain age I did block out, though,
Mhm.
because of, well, you know,
Especially during adolescence when all you want to do
totally.
is fit in. You're
Yeah,
like, and they're like, no.
100%. Well, we're taught, and I'm from Missouri originally, and we're taught that like spirits and certain things, you don't dabble into that. It's like bad. But it's angels are everywhere if you really, really open up to it. So, anyways, I was always into energy and I was always into angel cards, oracle cards, and I would do them for myself and I would do them for my friends. I had a specific deck one day, and I always tell people, they're like, well, how did this start? And it was definitely a message from spirit, and it was a During Virtue deck. And for whatever reason, I just was not resonating with it. This is years and years ago. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this deck. Grace. Hi, Grace.
Welcome, Grace.
I'm like, I don't know what to do with this deck. And then Spirit was like, hey, why don't you place these around? And I was super excited when I got that message intuitively because I woke up early and I remember I went online. I'm like, I have to order post-it notes because I wanted to do channeled messages, and it's become addictive. Like, I love placing the cards. I definitely feel my heart. It's what I'm supposed to do, is give messages to people and place them around. Now, what's transpired? That's a great question. I didn't think it would get to what has happened now with people reaching out to me, which has been really beautiful. I remember when, well, I think Jeffrey Wands, right?
Yes.
Yes, in Orlando. I know you had Orlando on the show.
Yes, I love Orlando. He's awesome.
Yes, Orlando's so funny. But I remember when they reached out to me, I was like, wow, like, they asked me to be on the show, and I'm like, what a beautiful moment for me, because I'm like, maybe I am making a difference in the world, right? And it gave me a platform, and I was on the show a few times and Grace's show to show people what I do, and it's opened up tons of beautiful connections, and I hope it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I just hope it's a domino effect and it just spreads light all over the world. Yeah, I've met some beautiful people. I've heard some beautiful stories from people that have found the cards, and I just want to continue doing it.
Wonderful. That
Yeah.
is that. I love that. I love that. Now, so part of, well, the name of the podcast is Unique Peace. So part of this is I want to know how you define peace.
Peace is, it's funny, again, when you can surrender into life without that anxiety being in your system, right? When you can be in a state of acceptance. I think that's peace. In a few ways, I bring peace to my life. One of the biggest ways is nature.
Hmm.
Nature, music, animals are probably my top three. But I think in life as humans, we have many ups and downs, right? Life isn't always perfect. And so it's like when you have bad times or times when you're in stress, when you can get to a point where you actually feel the emotion and say, okay, I accept this, I surrender to it. Now, how can I regulate my nervous system? That's different for every single person. For me, again, I love music. If I have good music on, if I'm in nature or animals, to me, that brings me peace. And I'm
So
sure you working with energy, you probably very much relate to that in a sense of like, if you are an intuitive, if you work with energy, most people I talk to, um, nature is a huge one for a lot of people.
yes, I very much like you. Those are my very much my top three. I was like, and they all help in different ways at different times.
100%. And that comes down to getting to know yourself, right?
Mhm.
And here's the thing, a lot of people work in this work mind frame of go, 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 go. They're always in their head. And then it's like, that's a good question to ask people. You know, when they're in an anxiety state, hold on one sec, step back. What brings you peace? A lot of people don't know what brings them peace because they're always in their mind and they're always working. And that's when you get sick. That's when you get run down. So that's a good question to ask yourself or anybody, what brings you peace, and do it consistently on a weekly basis.
I would say on an hourly basis for some people. It's like depending on where
We're
you're
on an
at in
hourly
life.
basis.
You got some coworkers stressing you out. You like, okay, I need to breathe. I need to
Yeah,
breathe.
yeah,
To like, that's a very important question to ask. Absolutely, what brings
yeah.
you? Take that step back and know that it's very important to make sure everybody in your circle is finding peace, and make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're finding peace for yourself. Like I said, different times, it's like animals, they'll come to me, like
Oh,
they'll come to me and say, okay, you need to calm yourself down, and then just like, and
yeah.
I'm not anti-dog, but I find cats resonate with me more. It's like my brother's dogs
Really?
will resonate with me, but when it comes to animals, I love all animals, but I am definitely the cat person because they
Uh-huh.
just come to me and they just plop themselves down and says, "Hi, we're gonna be friends."
Yeah.
They know they're very intuitive.
Cats. So it's so funny you even bringing up cats because I've always been a dog person growing up, always. Now it's funny with my abilities, I find I'm like, I don't really like cats. Cats don't really like me. I have found the past couple years complete lie. I'm like, my friends make fun of me now. They're like, Raven, when did you become a cat person? I'm actually staying with a friend right now, and he has two cats. And I kid you not, you nailed it. If I'm going through something or I'm about to do a meditation, these cats know. I mean, they will
Hmm.
come right up and lay right on my chest. Or, a guy was like, oh, this cat usually doesn't like most people. Cats are highly, highly intuitive. And I always tell people, you can communicate with animals. You just have to have your heart open,
Well,
right?
exactly,
Yeah, you
exactly.
just have to have your
And
heart
they
open.
know. And they know. I had an
100%.
aunt, one of my aunt's cats didn't like anybody except for like me and my grandpa. Um,
Uh-huh.
they love my
That's funny.
grandpa,
Yeah.
and it was great. But when I met this cat, they were like, "Oh, the cat was under the table. Oh, he doesn't really like people. He doesn't like new people. He
Yeah.
barely likes the people he's living with, kind of cat."
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
sat down, and he came right up, and everyone's like, "He doesn't like anybody." And it's like they know cat people. He knows I
They
like
know
cats.
energy. And
They know energy.
I wish I could remember who it was. I watched a video the other day and you'd probably relate with this. They were talking about this meeting was talking about specific animals and they said cats specifically they see spirits more so than other animals and they see humans different, meaning they don't see humans like I see you in a sense like 3D. They see energy first, and
Yes.
so they know who to go to and they know who to trust, and a lot of animals are like that. They know who to trust, so it's like if you put an intention out to connect, the animals can feel your energy completely.
Yes. And and you said you were a dog person for a good portion of your life, and you still are.
Oh, I still
But
am. Yeah.
and I'm very nervous around that energy, and I think it's because they're frenetic.
Yeah, they're very, yeah. But then
They're
also, I
very
feel like cats could be seen as that too, because I feel like cats have an energy. It's like they can like claw out of nowhere, you know?
And
That's
will.
for me. You know what I mean? So I could see cats being a little bit like that too. Yeah.
um, but what I love about animals is that they do have that immediate, you need to calm down, pat me, calm
Mm-hmm.
yourself down, soothe, and let me help you self soothe energy
Yeah.
when they stressed out. And it's like, and I love that about them.
And I love how,
And
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, and I was just going to go into to music is very
Mhm.
similar depending on what I need in that moment or at the beginning of the day or
Mhm.
at the end of the day. Have been very, very funny. We both know Orlando is very funny. Is
Yes.
I've been told I'm the mellowest metalhead that people have met.
I did not think that you're like a metal person. That is funny. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm a big metalhead. Ask you can ask
Yeah.
Michael, you can ask Orlando. People look at you up. Are
What?
you
Yeah, I
sure?
wouldn't think that. Yeah, that's so funny because you are super like relaxed and yeah, that's
But I'll
hilarious.
start and end my day with like meditation music or a vibration to kind of
Yeah.
help bring me into regulation. So I'm wondering, do you use music in the same way?
Oh, all the time. Actually, daily. I mean, you know, I listen to music all the time. I always have my headphones in all the time, even in like, let's say you're in a city. I tell a lot of my clients that work in the cities or work at a corporate environment, there's so many different ways to change the energy of the space, even if you're around a lot of people. I know a lot of people that are highly sensitive to energy when they're in, let's say you're in New York City or you're in London. I'm like, put the headphones on, right? Because once you put the headphones on, your body, you're just like you're in another world with that music. And so I always teach people that I use music every single day. That's one of my top things for sure. And like you said, it's for different things, right? And so let's say I want to get in a meditative state, or maybe I want to listen to music before channeling, or I want to bring a specific angel in. I'll listen to something a little softer. If I'm feeling, the other day I was like, my energy's kind of low. I'm not feeling good. And my guides are like, Raven, bring in music. And so I put on dance music and I was moving around, I was cleaning. Music can get you to a much higher frequency. You just have to practice it. It's little things that you have to practice on a daily basis that can help you completely.
Absolutely. And going into that, how do you bring peace to others? Kind of like what do you do to help others find peace?
Yeah, that's a great question. So obviously with the tarot cards and the angel cards, I hope that brings some sort of peace when I place those cards. Now, in my everyday life, and I'm sure you know this, when you work with energy, no matter where I am, I tend to always attract people that need some type of healing or something is going on with their life. And this has happened to me for years. I could be at the airport. I could be sitting at a park bench, right? And I think bringing peace to other people is really seeing their situation, like stepping into their energy. Okay, but you
Mm,
have to be careful with this being sensitive to energy because stepping into their energy and really feeling what they're going through and seeing their life from their perspective and seeing people without judgment is how you bring peace to that person. Because when you do that, they know they're around somebody where they can relax their energy, right? And they're not being judged and they can open up. And a lot of people just need people around them where they can be themselves and where they can
yes.
be seen authentically without judgment, right? Because I see a lot of people don't open up because they feel they're going to be judged or they feel shameful. And so when you're in that energy where you're afraid to speak up or talk about your problems or talk about your stresses, it's like you're in a constant state of stress and not walking on eggshells. So I try to with people, with anybody that I meet. And I'm not perfect, I catch myself, but I try to with most people be in a state of okay, how do I ground my energy and see this person through the eyes of love and instead of judgment, right? Like I was talking on Michael's podcast, it's like we look at, let's say, a drug addict or somebody that's going through, let's say, a death in the family. I heard somebody the other day, somebody had died, and they're like, oh, well, people just die. I'm like, ooh,
Oh, oh, I
that's
don't
just
like that
like,
response.
that's just, and you know, people die, it's a part of life, but we also have to have compassion. And grief, as you know, it's not like grief is just a day or a week to get over or a month. Grief is a part of life. And so it's like, you have to be compassionate with people. Now, if you have somebody that's not willing to change and look at their own behavior, sometimes you have to set boundaries with that person, which is fine. And I find that's been a huge thing for me with dealing with energy with people. One of my biggest things I've had to learn is one, surrender, step into the other person's energy, but also sometimes you have to set boundaries.
Yes, boundaries have been hard for me. Not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah,
Boundaries,
you have such a heart and you're so yeah, I could see that. But it's I that happens with a lot of healers though. Yeah,
yes. Nope.
happens with a
And
lot of healers.
yeah, and I can agree with the surrender. Getting better at that. But it's an every day we step in, and
Mhm.
every day is a new day, and every day is new challenges, and getting through them, and giving yourself grace
Yeah,
and extending that grace.
and not only that, it's like don't beat yourself up. I see so many people trying to be perfect, especially when they're in the spiritual field of all love and light. No, sometimes you got to feel, if you're angry, sometimes feel that rage. If you need to cry, cry. It's like you feel those emotions too. Don't be so hard on yourself. If you are a medium or a teacher in this field, you're not supposed to be perfect, right? We're human.
And that is a common thing, is people see, oh, you're supposed to be perfect. It's like, no, there's the shadow work, because I also do
Yeah.
karuna. I'm a karuna master teacher too, and that is all about doing shadow work. And that is, you have to be ready,
Oh
because
yeah.
that's taking a good hard look in the mirror in a
Oh
different way.
totally.
Because we've all
Mhm.
heard of mirror work. Well, if you're familiar with Louise Hayes,
Yeah.
she was big on mirror work, which
Yeah.
I'm totally down for. But Karuna kind of flips it on its head, and you have to love all parts of you, the good and the bad, the pretty and
Yeah.
the ugly. And if you are not ready to see the ugly side of you and
Mhm.
really that, th- that's where the perfection part comes in. And I spent
Totally.
years,
Uh-huh.
and I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah.
You have that perfect, you have to be perfect and everything. It's like, no,
Mhm.
today I need to cry. Today I need,
Totally. Mhm.
and that's
Totally,
okay.
yeah. I think shadow work's so important. So,
Yes.
so important.
And then getting it out brings peace, because then you're like, oh, I feel better.
Yeah. You know, something I've not got, I don't know why Spirit's having me bring this up, but something I haven't gotten huge into, but have you done breath work? Because
Yes.
Spirit's like, yeah, I've done a little bit of it, but that's they're telling me, I feel like somebody here is going to be watching this, I'm just getting this, that needs to do breath work because it's going to be a big release for their energy system. I've done a little bit of it. It is phenomenal, but that's a really good one to release anger and emotions.
Yes. I've done a little bit of it myself. But it's not something that I'm like going out and learning how to teach. It's something that
Yeah,
I
yeah.
experience to get it out. I've had a
Uh-huh.
couple sessions, and it is helpful. It is
Yeah,
it is
yeah. It's interesting.
it is interesting too. I do the square breathing, or the 4-4-4, the 16 count. So it's in
Mm-hmm.
for 4, exhale for 4, wait for 4. So I find myself doing that in times of stress, and I always tell my clients to do that too. It's like, takes you
That's a
16.
fast one. That's a fast
Yes,
one that would be good for let's say if you work in like a corporate office or something. So you're not
yes.
doing a full on breath work session. Yeah.
I have quite a few clients that are nurses, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
on shift. You can do it while you're working with your patient,
Yeah.
especially if the patient is the reason you need to breathe.
Oh, totally. And I think, you know, hospitals are interesting. I have a lot of respect for nurses because, again, if you're
Yes,
sensitive to energy, whew, hospitals,
yes.
there's definitely a lot there. You're picking up on people's illnesses, lots of spirits. Yeah, that's crazy.
And the healers need the healing
Oh,
just as.
absolutely. Yeah.
And when you're working in high stress environments, like the city itself is buzzing and high stress. So when you're working with somebody and you're taking pictures, how do you kind of get them? This just is a general question. How do you kind of
Yeah.
get, because you're on edge. You're like, the picture, the Beatles picture on Abbey Lane, they don't stop. So getting that
Oh,
picture
yeah.
must have been
So,
like a
like,
challenge.
how do
So
I get them to focus? Is that what
how
you're
do you get
asking
them
me?
to focus? Yes.
That's a great question. It depends on the person. I really have to read the energy of the person. And this has been, I feel like if Michael's on here, if you're a photographer, if you're watching this, if you do street photography, it is funny because I have had clients that are super distracted, or so I have to really get their energy back to me. And so that's a lot of that is coming up with like conversation, and not even talking about necessarily photography, but just getting to know my client and their life. So they focus on me and so I can get emotion out of them. Um, but you also have to, it can be great to use stuff around you, the distractions, as a positive, meaning, let's say I see something in New York City on the street and I'm like, oh my God, that's funny, to get them to loosen up and laugh. And so it's like you can actually use the chaos around you to make it into a positive. But I did have a client one time, oh gosh, she didn't like the wind, and so I'm the type of person that I was like, oh, this is great, because the wind, it'll be pretty. She's like, I don't like the wind, it's messing up my hair. And she started crying during the photo shoot. But this was kind of her personality, where she gets upset about the little things. She's somebody that would probably be good for like breath work or Reiki or practicing being in those moments. But it really depends on the person, when you're doing street photography. I just have to read the person's energy, but there are lots of distractions everywhere in the city.
And that kind of leads me to the next question, which you kind of answered, but if you could dive just a little bit deeper into it, is what's in your toolbox? So you are on set per se, and you
Uh-huh.
are trying, and you're going by person. But how do you, in those moments, what's in your toolbox that, like, okay, try this on yourself to calm
Oh,
down or center and get peaceful so that you can deal with, like, okay, this is a challenging client, we can do this, or this is a challenging moment, or traffic really sucks right
yeah.
now. How do you get into?
Well, you know what? I think because there's been so many times in my life where I've fallen, and I mean in a sense of like, you fall, you get back up, you fall, you get back up, and there's always a solution. And I think that's happened to me so many times in life. It's like I have to get creative myself. And so, for example, I was on a photo shoot, and this was 100%. It's the only time it's ever happened to me. It was definitely my fault. I didn't have a backup light for one of my photo shoots. It's funny enough, a lot of this was inside, so I definitely needed like extra light, right? And there was a couple I was doing outside, and the light broke, and it's like, I have a friend of mine this happened to, and it just ruined his whole entire shoot. And I'm like, I can't let this. And it's funny, when it happened, I wasn't even upset. My next thought was, how do I make this work? Right?
Mhm.
Because I'm doing this photo shoot. I was doing the photo shoot in a hotel downtown in Manhattan. I'm like, there's lots of different rooms I can work with here. But I ended up shooting and I used the light on my cell phone camera. Okay. So I used the light with my cell phone camera. So I was holding and then shooting with my other hands. Simple solution, right? But a lot of people would get stuck in, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't have an extra light. So I immediately just go to, what's the next solution, right? So let's say I'm on a street and it's just not working. I don't like the lighting. What's the next solution? It's like you have to constantly be creative. I think I'm just constantly in creative mode. Okay, what can we do next if that doesn't work out? That's just how my mind thinks. Yeah.
I love it. I have a similar. It's similar for me. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well that didn't work. What can I do now? And sometimes I have to sit on it for a minute, and it's like, give me a
Yeah.
minute,
Yeah.
and let's do something else, and then you get the answer. Sometimes focusing. I don't know about you, but focusing too much on the problem, trying to find the solution, makes the problem worse. That makes
It's like I found that's like the worst thing, you can do. So you almost have to get your energy into like a state of joy or fun, because if you, yeah, that's true. And that not only goes with, work, but let's say like relationships, love, or friendships. It's like if you're focused on it, if you're too attached, it's like usually spirit's not going to give you those intuitive hits.
Right.
You have to
Absolutely.
surrender, which is a huge lesson for a lot of people.
Yes, I think it's the general life lesson that we all come here to learn is surrender.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
master that, then you get to go back to the ether and just stay there.
Exactly. let's hope that happens to us. Yeah, this lifetime.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so is there anything else about peace that you would like to share as we get closer to?
Well, I just hope people listening really do think about and ask themselves that question specifically. And like you said, I would say every week, but like you said, every day. Because when you get yourself into a state of like high stress, it's like, what's the point of living a life when you're in constant stress and running around? It's like you're not enjoying little moments. So, yeah, just ask yourself, that's a very specific question. Ask yourself what brings you peace. Or maybe we could give anybody watching a challenge to pick 3 songs this week,
Hmm?
listen to them that bring them peace with nobody around in nature. How about that?
I love that.
Yeah,
And then tell us how it went. I want to know how it went.
exactly.
Leave
Yeah,
a
comment, send us
comment.
a message. That's
Share. We'll
yeah.
definitely share.
I love hearing stories from clients about how certain techniques have helped them. Because even my techniques that I could give my clients, I always say it might not work for you. You have to go with what works for you.
Yes. And Michael
Yeah,
agrees. With the music and the nature, it's just that simple.
it's so simple, Michael, and we make it complicated sometimes. You don't have to do all these like crazy, and it's beautiful going to spiritual retreats and learning different things, but we have to go back to the basics. And I feel like nature is something, I'll say this, a lot of humans overall collectively, we have forgotten our connection to nature, and that's one of the biggest healers on this planet.
Hmm. It definitely is. It's like for me, I mean, houses and buildings and dwellings are all necessary, but we're
Yeah.
overbuilding.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's a big space of land. We need to put something on it. No,
Mm-hmm.
we don't. I need to
Exactly.
be
Yeah.
able to ride a horse. I need to be able to have some place for my kids to run around in a pasture. Maybe
Totally.
it's the Midwesterner in me, but we don't need to keep building.
Yeah. Well, I tell people in New York City all the time, a lot of my clients, I'm like, make sure you spend time in nature. You have Central Park, you have many parks. It's like, take advantage of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Need to like go to the beach. As somebody who has, and this is true for you as well. I was born in Minnesota, raised in Colorado, so
Uh huh.
been all over the place. Like when I went to school in Chicagoland, there's the lake, so
Yeah.
water is very calming. Large bodies of water are very calming. But what if
Yeah.
you don't live near water? You've got mountains, you've got hills, you've got
Uh huh.
natural terrain.
Yeah.
It's important, not just the parks. I like the parks, and sometimes that's
Mm-hmm.
what people are closest to, but you're
Yeah.
still in a hub. I think the best way is to really escape the noise.
I agree. And water is my absolute favorite, especially if you work with energy. And I tell a lot of my clients, if you're not close to a lake or the ocean, get consistent as far as like when you take showers or you do like a salt bath, just imagine that white light around you taking off all the heavy energy. Showers and water, if yeah, do that. Use the elemental water to like cleanse your energy and relax your system. Very important. Yeah.
Yes, and they can do the water meditation. You can look up the water meditation, but it's the cleansing of washing away. You take a shower at night, you wash away the energy and the stuff of the
Uh-huh.
day, and you just sit there for a couple minutes and just under the water, and it washes
It
away
makes a
everything.
difference. It totally makes a difference.
So,
Yeah.
and yeah, I love it. And I know that you're in Missouri right now.
Uh-huh.
So where are you going in nature?
Well, you know what's really beautiful about where I am? My friend has two goats where I'm staying at right now. So they're just adorable. So I like going out in the field with them. Um, the animals are very, very healing and bring a lot of peace to me. But where I am too, it's like the lake and the water. Another thing is people love watching sunsets. Another consistent thing people should do. How
Yes.
many
Or
people love,
sunrises.
yeah, or sunrises? How many people love sunrises and sunsets? It's like even watching, you'll see a sunset and people overlooking and they're all taking photos. People love sunsets. It brings them peace, it brings them beauty, it brings them excitement. It depends on the person. So that's another way to like really bring beauty into your life is watching sunsets, especially by the water.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for coming on this morning and
Oh my
joining
gosh,
us.
thank you so much for having me. You're so beautiful and I'm so happy you asked me to come on here. Thank you.
I'm grateful. I'm going to put you in the green room for a minute and I'll be right with you.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for joining Raven and I talking about energy and peace and what brings peace. And I hope that you all learn new things or were reminded of, hey, maybe I should do this. And um, thank you, Grace. It's very empowering information and very, very powerful reminders. Next week, we will be on at 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific. We will be joined by Ray Cantatina. He is an author, a former atheist, and a clairvoyant. I want to share his journey with you guys, and I look forward to it. So I want to thank you all for joining me this morning and joining Raven. Have a wonderful day.